Okay, let's go on with the role of women in Etruscan society. So, Etruscans were highly literate people because their religious teachings were written and shared over many centuries. They have sometimes been called people of the book, to mean how they were highly literate. Many men and women, too, both aristocrats and artisans, could read and write, judging from the great number of inscribed objects that we have found. This can be called talking objects, and these seem to express magically the power that ancient peoples felt came from the ability to read and write. It was a power of which Etruscan men and women were proud. So, starting from the very beginning of Etruscan civilization, the first period called the Villanovan one, going from the 9th to the full 8th century BCE, most people were buried with a small number of artifacts. There could be some few that unusually had richer graves and others with no grave goods. But the important thing is that the families could deposit in the tombs, starting from this early period, offerings of food in bowls and cups, together with personal belongings. So men could have razors, as the one in the center, tools or weapons. This is, for example, on the right, a reproduction of a helmet. Or women could have jewelry or spinning equipment. Why this? Because one of the most important activities of women in Etruscan society was woolworking. So it seems clear that women were heavily involved in spinning and weaving, and the control of their domestic works was a duty of high-rank women that thought to the servants and to daughters how to perform this art. This art was probably connected with the same skills which were at the basis of writing. So especially in weaving, so creating lines and links between lines as to do with letters and words. So this has been studied deeply, and it's very probable that women were responsible for the education of their children and teaching the basis of writing. In fact, from a very early period, many objects found in women's tombs are spindles, spindle whorls, bobbins, and loom weights that many times are inscribed, sometimes with single letters or with reproduced alphabets too. And about this activity, there's a very detailed representation of spinning and work at the loom on a large X-shaped pendant from the city of Bologna. Here you can see it. And this is dated in the last quarter of the 7th century. So here are other drawings about the activity of spinning and weaving together with some instrument. So you see a bobbin, a comb used in weaving, and loom weights, all materials found in female tombs. Here we have a reproduction on a vessel and a reconstruction in a museum of a loom with women clearly working on it. So we have seen the pendant in the 7th century, dated in the 7th century. The great wealth of the aristocracy of the Etruscans started to be expressed at the top during the Orientalizing period, the so-called Orientalizing period, because many works of art and materials were inspired to the Eastern art. This period is centered on the 7th century BCE, and the great wealth of the aristocracy in this period is expressed and revealed in monuments like this tomb in Cerveteri, the so-called Regolini Galassi tomb, that's full of precious bronze and golden ornaments. All the objects found in the tomb, you can see here in the picture the entrance and a reproduction of the corridor leading to the burial chamber, are now in the Etruscan Museum at the Vatican. They are attributed so to the middle of the 7th century. Here is the location where the star is of the tomb. In one of the necropolises, City of the Dead of, so the cemetery is around the city of Cere. This tomb was discovered intact in April 1836 by an art prize called Regolini and the General Galassi. So this is why the tomb has this name, Regolini Galassi tomb. A burial like the Regolini Galassi, so containing such fair range of expensive grave goods, appears to have been the tomb of a member of a privileged class or of the ruling aristocracy. We can define burials like this, princely tombs. This is the drawing of the reconstruction of the dromos, so of the corridor found full of objects in 1836. 8 round shields in bronze foil with molded panthers' heads embossed on them, probably only used for ceremonial purposes, were discovered along the left-hand wall of the corridor. So there are other examples of shields hanging on the walls of tombs, this was perhaps an illustration of the noble warrior status of tombs occupants. But in the tomb there were a lot of golden objects, again found in the long corridor. It was a treasure of gold jewelry, including 30 centimeters long fibula, so a safety pin used to hang dresses, and then decorated with the same decorations of this large gold breastplate or pectoral of the deceased woman. So all these golden objects were grave goods of a woman buried in the tomb. So beside the jewels inside the tomb were found a chariot, bronze beds, seats, metal sheets, and decoration of a throne, bronze and silver vessels, weapons, and other. So the hypothesis was, given to the wealth of the jewels and the 2 inscriptions made on 2 cups, that a woman, a princess named Lartia, was buried in the cell, so in the main chamber room. So this is a great sign of distinction for a woman to have such a great and beautiful tomb, so heavily rich and decorated, having such a treasure of golden objects, with even 2 vessels inscribed with her name. At the end of the antechamber of the same tomb, a bronze bed was found, on which was laid the body of a warrior of noble family. To transport the body to the tomb, A carriage which was found in the same room now is reconstructed in wood in the museum. So the bronze bed was then put on the carriage. So this tomb was dedicated to this princess together with a noble warrior. Another example of burial of a noble woman is in the Archaeological Museum of Florence. This woman was buried in this coffin that was made of clay and then packaged in 4 separate parts because it was impossible to cook together the lid and the great big box. So this coffin, this sarcophagus, is dedicated, is a property of Lartia Seianti. So, and is dated in the first half of the 2nd century BCE. Is in terracotta, it's coming from the Etruscan city of Chiusi, with multicolored decoration. Then we know that's dedicated to her because on the upper border is engraved the name. So not only we can see this beautiful object dedicated to a woman having her name on it, but we can see how this woman was richly dressed with beautiful jewels, and then having in her hand a box with inside a mirror. This is to introduce, you can see here the close-up of Princess Lartia Seianti. So this is really a portrait of her, and you see how she is dressed, and then we have all the decoration, the jewels of her, together with the mirror box in her left hand. So mirrors were very important objects in women's tomb. The Etruscan mirrors were often engraved with the figures seen on the reverse, and are very frequent finds in women's tomb from the last part of the 6th century BCE, so the highest point of Etruscan civilization. The subjects frequently refer to the wards of women. Many mirrors of the archaic period, so of this period, the 6th century, have been found in Tarquinian tombs, so tombs of the city of Tarquinia, and attributed to local workshop. So these were real mirrors. The convex side was polished to create a reflecting surface, while the concave one was engraved with decoration in relief. Both the disc and the plaque that joined the handle were decorated. They were in solid cast bronze, more rarely in silver, and some of them had cylindrical handles in bone or ivory, with mouldings or ending in animal heads. So the mirrors are particularly important because the figures in the discs represented many times episodes drawn from Greek and Etruscan mythology. These are some of the few objects representing myths and in great number. And they are often identified by inscriptions alongside the characters or along the border. They are very important documents for the study of myth and religion. So these were real objects together with the women were remembering myths and maybe telling myths to the members of their family with their personal objects. So if they had on their personal objects as mirrors myths having labels on them and precise scenes, this meant that they knew very well the myths coming from Greek mythology and local mythology. So then women had to ash urn. So this is an example coming from Volterra by the end of the 3rd century BCE, and is in alabaster, so this precious white stone. And this typology of urns of this period reveal 2 major decorative motifs. So scenes from Greek mythology on the lower panels and portraits of the deceased on lids. In this case, we have the woman of noble family, Larti Crackney, and there is the inscription of her name, and a representation on the box of the myth of Artemis and Actaeon. Other urns had details of the Homeric poem. In this case, and another urn coming from Volterra, we have Odysseus and the Sirens and a close-up of it. Then in Tarquinia, they were not using ash urns, so they were not cremating their dead, but lying down in sarcophagi, coffins. So the one on the right is a sarcophagus reproducing an Amazonomachy. On this short side, we can see 2 Amazons, so fighting with a Greek warrior. So let's go in detail with this sarcophagus, this coffin, so-called of the Amazon, because it was completely decorated with an Amazonomachy. Was dedicated to a woman. There's the inscription on the lid. Was very precious because it was in marble. Is dated at the mid of the 4th century BCE. And the chest is painted with a new technique for the Etruscan, a tempera technique, with a scene of a battle between Greek and the Amazons. Is attributed to a Greek or Italic or Etruscan painter, and is very important for the evolution that is shown here of perspective and chiaroscuro. So what is chiaroscuro? It's the technique of using light and shade in pictorial representation, the arrangement of light and dark elements in a pictorial work of art. So another important example is this sarcophagus of the high social standing of women. To this one was dedicated as a very precious and rare coffin, having as you can see, an important myth having as the principal characters women, Amazons, connected to the women world. Then women were reproduced in little statuettes as worshippers, as you can see here on the left, or could have their own portraits, as you can see in this picture of this female portrait from, again, Cerveteri. Then, even at the end of the history of the Etruscans, when in the 1st century BCE, Etruria was just another part of the Roman world, being englobated in Roman territory, her warriors had become now priors and authors, and her weaver women, owners of factories and patrons of art. so continuing to have an important role in society with their own activities and their own properties. Then Etruscan culture so had flourished for the span of a millennium, and its vestiges remain in the city of Renaissance Tuscany, in Italy's tiled roof and political and religious symbols, and in our own thought and writing of our Western world. So in this final day, we continue to see women represented on the lid of their ash urns, reclining in banquets or taking part to social events. This urn is dedicated to Aula Cecina, with the name inscribed on the lid, but this time in early Latin, because Etruria has been englobated into the Roman world. Okay, so this is the end for the Etruscans. Then next week we will see more in detail some Etruscan myths, how the Etruscan knew very well Greek mythology, and the connection then with the Roman world and with Roman sagas. Bye!